49ers update has moved on to Montenegro, a good spot to talk about the big guns. Also happens to be a cat. There's a lot of cats in these cities just laying around, but we're here to talk about Brock Purdy. We're here to climb up the mountain. We're here to say, unfortunately, Brock Purdy's old buddy from Iowa State, Tyrese Haliburton. I mean, that reminded me of a hybrid between the KD situation for the Warriors back when they played the Raptors, and of course the Dre Greenlaw situation against the Kansas City Chiefs in that Super Bowl. Just absolutely tragic for Tyrese Haliburton. Would not be surprised if that was the final time that an athlete from either sport, basketball or football, at the professional level decides to play through a calf strain. Turns into a torn Achilles for Tyrese Haliburton, who rode the bus with Brock Purdy back at Iowa State. Such a cool story. Both of those guys overcoming the odds to become superstars in their respective sports, but a tough Game 7 loss for the Indiana Pacers and obviously for Tyrese Haliburton. Tight End U is happening in Nashville, which is obviously far from here in Montenegro. Yearbook frat-style presentation of the attendees list for Tight End U, and that means that we know that Luke Farrell is in Nashville for the event. We know that Mason Pline is back in Nashville for the event. He was there last year, and Braden Willis is there to join George Kittle, the founder of Tight End U. So all those guys are going to have a good opportunity to work on their craft over the course of this week. It's going to be a fun 2 days in Nashville. I want to spend this time here in Montenegro talking a little bit more about Gus Bradley, 49ers' new assistant head coach with a ton of pedigree. I mean, this has been a head coach in the NFL. Now he's going to be helping out primarily Robert Saleh as somebody who was the first defensive coordinator of that great Legion of Boom defense in Seattle. So Gus Bradley from Seattle to Jacksonville, where he gave Robert Saleh his first chance. This is good stuff. Let's listen to Gus Bradley. Can you rewind back 12, 13 years? I know Robert came to Jacksonville after Seattle.
Yes.
What was the process like identifying Robert as a big coaching talent?
Well, so we were together in Seattle. He was our quality control coach and had a lot of respect for him. And then when I got the job in Jacksonville, Mark Duffner was the linebacker coach. And so we decided after going through the interview process that he was going to be our linebacker coach. And then I think the next year he went with Joe Philbin. So there was always a plan somehow to get Robert with us. In what capacity, we didn't know. And then when it opened up to get him in as a linebacker coach, that's when we took advantage of it.
Your foundation, is from cover three, but Robert's sort of evolved in more of a quarter system. I think a lot of the league has done that. Well, why do you think the league has sort of moved in that direction?
Well, I think it is part of the philosophy. I think that's why it's so exciting for me to come here and said, hey, we've done a lot of three. He's played quite a bit of three. We play some split safety, but just incorporating it all into a big picture. And, I think through all of his experiences, right? I mean, who he was as a quality control coach to now, the experiences he had, same with me. I think just to blend that together. And we've been on the same page for many years. But through times, you kind of evolve to different things. So, that's where I've seen him grow in that area as well.
What do you see as your role being right now? How do you define it?
Well, it's, right now in the conversations with Robert, it's just coming in here and then, like I said, being excited about seeing this and seeing how Kyle operates, seeing how the defense operates, and then just being a sounding board. And we do a lot of communicating and, so it's just really I think the number one job of assistant coach is to serve the head coach, serve the coaches, and then make sure or help players serve each other. So really that's my role now. That's kind of been my philosophy throughout my career, and it'll just continue here.
And then I absolutely love Robert Saleh's take on this. He talks about the yin and the yang going on between him and Gus Bradley.
We look at it differently, if that makes sense, and it's kind of good yin and yang. He sees my blind spots and I can see his, and I think we just complement each other really well. But just the overall trust and working relationship that he and I have, and just overall philosophy, I think it just, he's as trustworthy as it gets.
Example of the yin and yang that you're talking about?
I'm more liberal in terms of, from a player assignment standpoint. I want our players to be more just play more reactionary. I'm not sure if that's the word I'm looking for, where, he grew up in a system where it's every single technique has a word, every movement has a word. And so there's, he can see blind spots where I'm liberal to the point where it's like, nah, and he goes, well, shoot, we need to. And it's, and then vice versa. So it's a good working dynamic in that regard.
And of course, we have to hear from Kyle Shanahan himself. And Shanahan's comments are really interesting because he actually has schemed against Gus Bradley in the past. And we've heard of the respect that Richard Sherman and the Seattle Seahawks had for Kyle Shanahan offenses. I think Sherman said that was the only offense that was able to bastardize the rules of the cover 3 Seattle style defense. Well, Kyle Shanahan can speak in reverse. He can speak about the schematic prowess of Gus Bradley, how he might be able to help Robert Saleh and that 49ers defense. And Shanahan comes at this from a place of experience, given the fact that he has had to design offenses to try to beat Gus Bradley's defenses, those Legion of Boom defenses moving to Jacksonville, and now obviously back to help Robert Saleh with the 49ers.
Gus, I have as much respect for as any coach. Been around, going against him a ton, how good he's been, and I just feel very fortunate to get him here. Saleh's been with them for a long time. They have different personalities, but they're from very similar backgrounds, so I think it's really cool for Saleh to have him to bounce ideas off of and kind of to challenge him in certain ways. And Gus also brings a certain wisdom. Just as far as teaching, how he communicates with people. He's always trying to help guys out around the building, and I think he's been one of our huge additions this offseason.
A lot of big additions for the 49ers this offseason. I'd have to say that Montenegro is a big addition to my travel list. Never been to this small country, only about 600,000 people, and tomorrow we're going to get an even better look. I know it's already spectacular between Budva, the city by the sea, and now KOTOR, which is a little bit inland, but still on the water. This is just awesome. It used to be Serbia and Montenegro. Before that, it used to be Yugoslavia. That country obviously split up into many, and then Serbia and Montenegro went their separate ways as well. So now you go to Montenegro, and as cool as Croatia was with the Game of Thrones setting in Dubrovnik and all that, I think Montenegro is a little less discovered, maybe a little bit more authentic in some of these more touristy cities, and just absolutely magical. Great spot for 49ers Update. Where isn't a good spot for 49ers Update? You can guess where the next one is coming from.